The sound of chains echoed across the dark chamber. The human walked with heavy steps, his wrists bound with iron cuffs and his ankles tied so tight he could feel the blood stop for a moment. Every step pulled him closer to the stage where bright alien lights were burning his skin. The crowd was waiting, the market was silent for a breath. Then hundreds of strange voices rose at once. Some hissed, some laughed, some whispered the same word again and again, bed warmer. He did not understand that. First he thought maybe it was a name of an object or a title. He looked around with tired eyes. His body was covered with dust, his clothes were torn, his feet bare. He had been taken from his world years ago, dragged through ships and cages until he no longer knew what day it was. He only knew one thing. Tonight someone would buy him like an animal. The auctioneer was tall, his body thin like glass, his skin glowing blue. He raised a hand and the noise stopped. He shouted words in a harsh tongue. But the meaning entered the human's mind through a small translator that was forced into his ear. This is no ordinary slave. This is human. His heat is strong. His body burns warm, even in the deep cold. He will be perfect for your frozen beds. Perfect. To keep you alive in long winters. The crowd gasped. Some aliens leaned forward with shining eyes. Others licked their lips. The human felt a chill even though the air was hot. He realized then bed warmer was not a title. It was his fate. They wanted him not for his strength, not for his mind, not for his soul. They wanted him as a living furnace to lie beside them through endless cold nights. A sharp voice called out from the front row, 10,000 credits. Another shouted, 15. A third one, 20. The numbers rose fast. The human closed his eyes. He wished for death. He wished the chains would break. He wished he could run, but there was nowhere to run. The walls were tall, the guards were armed, the lights were burning bright. The auctioneer slammed his hand down. Sold. The word echoed through the hall. His buyer stepped forward, a tall alien woman with silver skin and eyes like ice. She wore heavy robes lined with fur. Her breath came out like smoke in the warm air. She looked at him not with pity, not with kindness, but with hunger. She whispered softly, "He will keep my nights warm. He will obey. He will never speak unless spoken to." The guards dragged him down from the stage and pushed him into a cold carriage. The doors closed, and cords. Darkness fell inside. He sat on the floor breathing hard. His hands were shaking. His body felt weak. He knew this was the beginning of another prison, but this one was worse. This was a prison of touch, a prison of nights, a prison where he was not a fighter or worker, but a tool for comfort. The carriage moved through silent streets. Outside he could hear the cries of other slaves sold for labor, for pain, for games. He looked at the small window. The sky was filled with stars, too many stars for one world. He thought of Earth. He thought of the warmth of the sun. He thought of the life he had lost. But those thoughts were dangerous because they made his heart heavy and weak. When the carriage stopped, the doors opened to a massive stone palace. Frost covered the steps even though the night was mild. The guards pulled him out and led him through endless halls. Every wall glowed with frozen crystals. Every corner whispered with cold air. At last they stopped at a wide door. The woman entered first and the guards pushed him in. After, the room was dark, but not empty. He could feel the chill reach into his bones. The bed in the center was large, covered with heavy blankets. The woman pointed to it. Without a word he understood what she meant. He walked slowly, his legs heavy with shame. He sat on the edge waiting. His breath made small clouds in the air. That night, as he lay still staring at the ceiling, he realized something. He was not only a prisoner. He was a product, a possession, a thing to be used and forgotten, and yet deep inside a small fire still burned. A thought he dared not speak, a thought that whispered, "One day this will end." The years moved like shadows, slow and heavy. The human learned the rhythm of cold nights and empty days. He lay on the wide bed every evening, his body a shield against frost. He never spoke unless commanded. He never fought because chains were waiting behind every door. The alien woman treated him not with kindness, but with need. She pressed close to his warmth and fell asleep while he stared at the ceiling with open eyes. The palace was full of servants, yet he was the Only one without a voice. They whispered when he walked past. They said he was dangerous. They said his body burned with fire. They feared him, but they also pitied him. He heard once a servant mutter under her breath, "Better death than to live as a bedwarmer." He wanted to agree, but his lips stayed sealed. Every night was the same until one strange winter, the cold grew worse. Then before the frost crawled into the palace walls like living snakes, the woman needed him more and more. Sometimes she called him before the sun set. Sometimes she ordered him to stay through the day too. His body burned, but his heart grew colder. He felt less human, more object with each passing hour. He tried to remember Earth, the sound of rivers, the green of forests, the smell of rain. But the more he tried, the less he could recall. His memories faded like mist. He feared one day he would forget even his name and only remain as warmth wrapped in flesh. Then one evening something unusual happened. The woman received guests. Rich alien nobles entered the palace with jewels shining on their necks and eyes colder than ice. They drank glowing wine and laughed like hunters. The human was ordered to stand silently near the fire to remind everyone of her prized possession. The guests noticed at once. One said, "His heat is strong, I can feel it from here." Another whispered, "Imagine what I could do with him in my chambers." The woman smiled with pride, but her words cut deeper than chains. "No, you cannot have him. He is mine. He keeps me alive at night. He belongs to me." The human lowered his head. He wanted to disappear. But in that moment, one of the nobles turned and stared straight into his eyes. The noble was different. He looked almost human. His skin was pale, his features softer. He tilted his head, and for a second pity flashed in his gaze. The human's heart jumped. Could this stranger understand? Could he be someone who knew? The night went on with laughter, but that single look haunted him. When he returned to the cold bed, he could not sleep. The thought grew like a seed. Maybe not everyone here was blind. Maybe someone could see him as more than heat. Days passed. The noble visited again. He watched from the corner as the woman commanded her servants. He never spoke to the human, never approached, but his eyes told a story. The human began to wait for that gaze as if it were the only light in his dark prison, but danger grew too. The other nobles whispered greedily, if a human could burn so warm, they wanted one too. Rumors spread through markets and hidden streets about the rare bedwarmer species. Some wanted to buy some, wanted to steal. He realized soon his chains were not only to keep him in, but to keep others out. One night he heard footsteps outside his chamber, whispering voices and the sound of a blade sliding free. He froze his instincts, shouted danger. Door creaked open, but before anything could happen, guards rushed and steel clashed, and the voices vanished into the night. He understood then, he was valuable enough to kill for. That thought did not give him pride. It gave him fear, because a possession that is rare does not live long if stolen too often. He lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling the frost crawl down his chest. His heart whispered one truth. He could not endure this forever. He needed a way out. The memory of the pale noble returned. He remembered the pity in his eyes. He remembered how no one else looked at him that way. And for the first time in years, a dangerous, fragile hope grew inside him. Perhaps one day someone would stop this. Perhaps one day someone would see him not as warmth but as human. The human awoke to another freezing night, but something felt different. The palace halls were too quiet. The servants avoided his gaze more than usual. Their whispers carried fear, not pity. He sat by the edge of the bed waiting for the alien woman to call for him, but the silence stretched until his skin crawled with unease. Finally, she entered the chamber, her silver eyes sharper than knives. She told him, tonight nobles arrive again. You will stand before them. You will remind them why I own you. Her words carried pride, but also a hint of worry. He sensed she was hiding something. As the night began, the nobles gathered. Once again, laughter and jewels filled the hall. And once again the pale noble returned, his gaze locked on the human like it had before. But this time it lingered longer. He studied him, as if trying to memorize his face. The human's heart pounded. Something stirred inside him, something he thought was dead. Hope, but hope was dangerous. He kept his head bowed. The woman spoke loudly, boasting of her possession. She told stories of how his warmth had saved her during storms of ice. She called him a treasure. She never called him a man. The nobles clapped and raised their cups, yet the pale noble did not cheer. He only watched. Later, when the guests left, the human was dragged back to his chamber. The woman whispered threats in his ear. Never look at them. Never think of escape. You are mine alone. Her breath was colder than the frost. He shivered. Though his body still burned with heat, days passed. Rumors grew louder. Attempts to steal him became frequent. Guards doubled at his door. The palace was no longer safe. He could feel the tension in every step. Every servant looked over their shoulder, as if shadows carried knives, and through it all the pale noble kept visiting. One evening the pale noble walked close when no one was watching. He spoke in a low voice, barely above breath. Do not fear, I see you. The words struck the human like thunder. For years no one had spoken to him like that. For years no one admitted he was more than heat. He wanted to reply, but chains on his neck pulled tight, reminding him silence was survival. The noble's eyes softened. He slipped a small object under the blanket near the fire before turning away. The human's heart raced. When the chamber emptied, he reached for it. It was a shard of glass, smooth on one side, sharp on the other. A tool, a weapon, a sign. For the first time in endless years, he felt something alive in his chest. He hid the shard under the floor cracks. His mind swirled with questions. Who was this noble? Why risk helping him? What did he want in return that night? As the woman pressed against him for warmth, he kept still, but his mind burned brighter than ever. He thought of freedom. He thought of fire. He thought of the noble's words, I see you, and he clung to them as if they were rope above a dark abyss. But danger was close. He did not know that spies were already watching the noble, that whispers of betrayal spread in the court, that the woman herself suspected her. Guests, strange attention. The next morning the human was taken to the great hall once again. Chains on wrists, chains on ankles. This time soldiers filled the walls, their weapons glowing with cold blue fire. The woman stood tall, her voice cutting across the silence. She declared, tonight we test loyalty. Someone has been plotting against me. Someone wants my property. The human froze. His heart thudded loud like a drum. He dared not move. She looked around the hall, slowly, her gaze sharp as ice. Then she pointed her silver finger straight at the pale noble and said, bring him forward. The guards seized the noble. The hall erupted with shouts. Some cheered, some gasped. The noble did not resist. His eyes only turned once more toward the human, calm, steady, unafraid. And in that look, the human saw a promise not broken. He saw fire hidden in ice. The human's breath caught. He realized the game had changed. This was no longer only about survival. This was about war of secrets, and somehow he was at the center. The great hall glowed with icy blue light. The noble stood in silence as the pale noble was dragged before the throne. The alien woman's silver eyes blazed with suspicion. Her voice cut through the frozen air like a blade. You came to my palace often. You watched what was mine too closely. Now you will answer what game are you playing? The human stood at the side in chains. His heart pounded. He wanted to look away, but his eyes betrayed him. They locked with the noble's calm gaze. The noble did not bow. He did not shake. His voice, when it came, was steady. I only came to see a human. I wish to understand him. He is not only warmth, he is life. He is more than you say. The hall gasped. Nobles whispered in shock. Some laughed nervously. Others looked hungry for scandal. The woman's face twisted with rage. She shouted, silence. He is my possession. He is nothing more. The pale noble turned his head slowly. His eyes met the human again, and his voice rose clear. Then prove it. If he is only warmth, prove it tonight. The hall grew quiet. Every alien leaned forward. The woman narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? He spoke with firm words. Place him in the frost chamber, without blankets, without touch. If he is only warmth, he will survive for you. If he is human, he will not. The woman froze. Suspicion and pride battled on her face. She could not back down, not in front of rivals. Slowly she nodded. Very well, we will see what he truly is. Guards seized the human, pulling chains tight. He struggled, but not for freedom, only for fear. He knew the frost chamber. He had heard whispers of it, a room where cold did not sleep, a room that killed the strongest in hours. The nobles followed, eager for spectacle. The human was dragged into the heart of the palace. The door opened and breath turned to fog inside. Frost covered every wall. Like glass, the guards threw him in and locked the door. At once the cold struck his bones. His breath caught sharp in his throat. He staggered to the floor. His body shook. He curled tight, but the chill bit through skin muscles hard. He tried to move, tried to rise, but every step felt heavy like stone. Through the glass wall he saw the nobles watching. Their eyes gleamed with cruel interest. The woman stood tall, arms folded, certain her property would prove strong. Yet among them the pale noble stood still, his jaw tight, his hands clenched as if holding back action. Minutes crawled like years. The human gasped, his body steaming with fading heat. He thought of rivers on earth. He thought of the sun. He thought of freedom, and his chest burned with defiance. His body was failing, but his spirit whispered, "I am not only warmth." Then a sound, a crack, a tiny flicker of light on the floor beneath the frost. He looked down. The shard of glass he had hidden days ago had slipped from his clothes. During the struggle, it glowed faintly, catching the frozen light. Hope he grasped it, though his fingers trembled. His body screamed with pain, but the sharp edge pressed against the chain on his wrist. He scraped once, twice, until sparks danced. Nobles leaned closer, mistaking the sparks for dying heat. The woman laughed, cold and cruel. "See how he burns even as he fades." But the noble's eyes widened. He understood. He saw not a dying slave, but a man fighting silently against fate. The glass cut deeper. A link snapped. His hand came free. He hid it close against his chest to avoid notice. His heart thundered louder than the storm outside. His breath came ragged but alive. The test was not over. The cold was still winning. His body shook violently. His vision blurred. Yet deep inside, something older than chains burned: human stubbornness, human fire, the will to live when logic said no. The nobles murmured, "He lasts too long." The woman's smile faltered. She clenched her fists tighter. She needed him to prove her claim. She needed him to survive. At that moment, the human's eyes met the noble's again. Between them passed an unspoken truth. Tonight is not the end. Tonight is the beginning. Frost chamber roared with silence, yet inside one man refused to break, and outside one noble was waiting for the moment to act. Frost chamber swallowed all sound, except the human's heavy breath. Every breath turned to white mist. Every movement was slower than the last. His body fought to keep burning, but the ice pressed deeper into his bones. His fingers shook around the broken chain link. He kept the shard of glass hidden in his palm close to his chest. Outside the glass wall, the nobles leaned forward. Their jeweled eyes glowed in hunger. Some laughed at his struggle. Others whispered wagers on how long before he collapsed. The alien woman stood proud, though her smile was thinner than before. Her silver eyes did not leave his trembling form. The pale noble remained silent. He did not laugh. He did not wager. His eyes followed every twitch of the human's hand, every faint spark of defiance. He was waiting for something. He knew. The human dropped to his knees. The cold floor bit into his skin. His vision swam in circles. The bed warmer. "That is all they see," he thought. The fire in his chest flickered low. His lips whispered words no one heard. Not bed, not warmer, human. The shard dug into another chain link. Sparks hissed in the frozen air. Another piece cracked loose. His other hand came free, but weakness gnawed at him. He bent forward, almost falling flat. His body wanted rest. His heart demanded fight. A guard outside chuckled. Too weak now. One more minute. The woman lifted her hand, ready to end the show, but the pale noble stepped forward. His voice rang out stronger than before. "Wait, he is not finished." All eyes turned. The woman's brow arched in anger. "You dare command me in my own hall?" The noble did not flinch. "I do not command, I witness." "Look closer. He is breaking free." "Not." Dying gasps rippled through the crowd. The woman's eyes snapped back to the chamber. Her smile froze. The human lifted his freed hands, weak but steady. He pressed them against the ice wall. His palms burned red against the frost. He pushed not with strength but with fury. His breath roared inside his chest like a furnace. He was not an object, he was not a tool. He was alive, the ice groaned. A thin crack appeared across the wall. Nobles cried out in shock. The woman's face twisted in rage. Guards rushed forward, but she raised her hand to stop them. She could not show fear, not now. She hissed through sharp teeth. Let him break, let them see. Then I will claim him again inside the chamber. The crack spread wider. Frost splintered like glass under fire. The human roared, his voice hoarse after years of silence. The wall shattered in a rain of shards. Cold wind burst into the hall. The noble stumbled back, gasping. The human staggered forward into the open air, his body steaming with heat against the frozen floor. Chains still clung to his ankles, but his back was straight. His eyes burned brighter than the torches above. For the first time in years he was not crawling. He was standing. The hall erupted with noise. Some nobles cheered, some screamed. Guards leveled weapons glowing blue. The woman shouted, "Seize him! Do not let him breathe free." The pale noble moved quicker than the rest. He stepped between the guards and the human. His cloak spread wide, his voice fierce. "Enough, he has proven what none of you believed. He is not warmth, he is will, he is man." The woman snarled betrayal. The guards hesitated, caught between fear of her command and awe of the sight before them. The human stood tall, blood dripping from his wrists, frost clinging to his hair. Yet his gaze was unbroken. The pale noble turned his head slightly, his words soft, meant only for him. "Tonight you live, tonight we start." The human's heart beat like thunder. He did not know what the noble's plan was, he only knew this was his chance. This was the first crack, not only in ice but in chains. The hall burned with chaos, but within that storm, one truth was clear: the frost had broken, and with it so had the silence of years. The great hall was chaos. Nobles shouted over one another. Some demanded the human be executed at once. Others whispered of profit and power. Guards tightened their grip on glowing weapons. The alien woman's voice rose above them all. "Kill him now, before his fire spreads." The human swayed on weak legs, but still he stood. His chest rose and fell like a drum. His wrists bled from broken chains. His body steamed with heat against the frozen air. The pale noble stepped closer, blocking the line of spears. His cloak flared in the torchlight, his voice sharp as steel. "Touch him and you will regret it." The guards hesitated, their eyes flicked between the woman and the noble. The woman shrieked, "He is mine, he belongs to me." The noble's voice thundered, "Not anymore." The moment cracked like glass. The human lunged forward, swinging the broken chain link still attached to his ankle. It struck a guard's arm, knocking the weapon aside. The crowd gasped. The nobles pulled back in fear. The guards moved in fast, but the noble drew a blade of shimmering white and slashed across the floor. Sparks flew. The guards halted, stunned. Now the human thought, now or never. The noble grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a side passage. The human stumbled, weak, but followed. His heart pounded louder than the alarms echoing through the palace. Guards shouted from every corner. Boots thundered on the icy floors. The woman screamed like a storm, "Find them, bring me my warmth." They ran through narrow halls. Frost clung to the walls like teeth. The noble moved with purpose, as if he had walked this path before. The human gasped, "Where are we going?" The noble whispered, "Freedom, if we can reach the gates." They turned a corner and found 3 guards blocking the way, spears raised, blue fire crackling. The noble raised his blade ready, but the human stepped forward. Heat poured from his body. He slammed the broken chain against the wall. Sparks rained down. For a heartbeat, the guards froze. Then the noble struck swift, and clean the guards fell. The path cleared, every step burned the human's lungs. His body wanted to collapse, but his will pushed him forward. He remembered nights of silence, years of chains, endless cold beds, that life was over if he could just keep moving. At last they reached a hidden stair spiraling down into darkness. The noble whispered, "Hurry, the woman will send hunters here soon." They descended fast, stone steps slick with frost. At the Chizu bottom a heavy door waited. The noble pushed it open. An icy wind blasted their faces. The world outside. The human staggered forward. The night sky stretched wide, stars glittering endless. The air was sharp and cold, but it was not a prison. It was free. He inhaled deep and his chest ached with life, but freedom was not yet won. The palace gates loomed ahead, tall iron spires glowing with frost energy. Dozens of soldiers gathered, their eyes fixed on them. The woman's silver figure appeared high above her voice, echoing across the night. You cannot take what is mine. Kill them both. The human's knees shook. He had no weapon, only broken chains. His strength was fading fast. The noble placed the white blade in his hands, his eyes steady. You do not need to be weapon, you are weapon. The human gripped the blade tight. Its surface burned with cold, but his warmth kept it alive. He raised it as soldiers advanced. Their blue fire lit the snow around them. Spears hissed closer. The noble whispered, one strike to open the gate, just one. The human roared, a sound that shattered years of silence. He swung the blade wide. Fire met frost, sparks burst into the air. The gate shuddered and cracked. Night held its breath. The battle for freedom had begun. The human's roar still echoed as the blade struck. The iron gate sparks exploded across the frost. Soldiers staggered back, their eyes wide with shock. The gate groaned like a beast waking from sleep. Cracks of light spread along its frozen surface. The alien woman's voice shrieked from the walls. Above, stop him. Stop them now. Dozens of guards rushed forward, spears glowing with cold fire. The noble leapt in front, slashing left and right. His white blade sang through the air. He fought not with fury, but with precision. Every move measured, every step placed between the human and the enemy. He shouted, run, break the gate, I will hold them. Human gripped the weapon tighter. His arms trembled, but his fire burned brighter. He struck again and again. The iron shuddered with each blow. Frost rained down from the towers. The soldiers screamed in rage, trying to surround him, but every time they closed and heat burst from his chest. His body steamed with force, too wild to cage. The woman raised her hands above the crowd. Frost swirled into a storm. She screamed words of power, and the ground froze solid beneath their feet. Spears of ice burst from the earth, aiming for the human's heart. The noble dove pushing him aside. The shards sliced across his cloak, leaving trails of blood. He gasped, but did not fall. He turned his face to the human. Go finish it. The human staggered to the gate, his vision blurred, his lungs burned. Every muscle begged him to collapse, but inside he remembered nights of silence, nights where his body was used as nothing more than warmth. He remembered chains biting into skin. He remembered staring at the ceiling, whispering, one day it will end. That day was now. He swung the blade one last time. Fire roared through his body. Heat poured into the steel. The blade struck the center of the gate. A blinding crack split the air. The iron screamed and shattered. The gates burst open, spilling light into the frozen night. The soldiers froze in shock. The nobles shrieked. The woman's eyes widened in horror as the blast of heat rolled across her palace, melting frost from her walls. For the first time she felt what she had stolen for years. Human fire. The noble grabbed the human's arm, pulling him through the broken gate. Beyond lay the open wild, a world of snow and stars, but also freedom. They stumbled forward side by side, their breaths ragged, their steps heavy. Yet every step was theirs, not chained, not ordered theirs. Behind them chaos erupted. Guards tried to follow, but the gates crumbled, collapsing in sparks and ice. The woman screamed, her fury echoing into the night. He was mine. He will return to me. But her voice was drowned beneath the roar of fire and stone. Human and the noble fell to their knees in the snow outside. The blade lay between them, steaming. The human gasped for breath, his body trembling from cold and heat both. The noble's hand rested on his shoulder, steady even in pain. He whispered, you are free now, not bed, not warmer. Human, the words cut deeper than chains ever had. The human felt tears sting his frozen eyes. For the first time in years, he was not an object. He was seen. He was alive, but deep inside. He knew this was not the end. The woman's power was vast, her hunger unbroken. She would not stop hunting him. She would send armies, storms, even worlds to reclaim her lost possession. He looked at the noble beside him, the man who had risked everything. His heart whispered not fear, but resolve. They had broken the frost together. They could face what came next. Together the night stretched wide before them, a path of danger and stars. Behind them the palace burned with anger. Then the universe waited. The human stood tall, lifting his head to the sky. His voice steady, simple, but fierce. I am not warmth. I am fire, and with that fire the story of chains ended. The story of freedom had begun.